The Minnesota Timberwolves have one of the best defenses in NBA history. Fresh off of humiliating the Suns and their offense that many, including Devin Booker, thought would be basically unguardable, they marched into Denver and made a statement against the reigning champs in Game 1, holding them to under 100 points for the first time this postseason as they grabbed a crucial win. That performance alone sent shockwaves around the league. But Minnesota reached another level in Game 2 without four-time Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert playing perhaps the single best defensive half of basketball I've ever seen. Minnesota held Denver to 35 first-half points, their fewest since Jokic joined the starting lineup in November 2015. They held Denver to 14 of 43 shooting, forced 9 turnovers, and blocked 8 shots in the first half alone, ending the period with a 26-point lead as they left Denver shell-shocked in a surreal moment. The offense that had been leaving defenses praying for answers over the last 2 years suddenly looked completely helpless. That all started with how they defended Nikola Jokic. Minnesota has guarded Jokic much better than any other team over the past 2 seasons, including in last year's playoff series, but a huge part of that has been due to Rudy Gobert's defensive dominance. The Timberwolves have been able to deploy the distinct defensive strategy of putting Gobert on Aaron Gordon instead of Jokic and having him act as a roamer. Gobert is a very good post defender, but he is best and most impactful as a help defender, affecting cutters, drivers, and Jokic himself with his all-time great rim protection, and guarding a non-floor spacer like Gordon allows him to do that. That was their primary strategy in Game 1. It works because Cat is so huge that he guards Jokic quite well on post-ups, at times even better than Gobert does because he's much stronger, and then even when Jokic bullies Cat, he often has to deal with Gobert and help. Instead of this being an easy hook, Gobert's presence forces him to fade, making this a tougher shot. Along with Cat, Naz Reid guarded Jokic quite well in stretches of Game 1 to allow Gobert to roam, forcing him into several mistakes of his own, but certainly benefiting from Gobert behind him. Reid applies great ball pressure here, but it's Gobert who disrupts this lob pass to Gordon. Reid fronts Jokic, and Gobert blows up the catch. So that is the best answer any team has come up with for Jokic post-ups, which often feel completely unstoppable. But Gobert's roaming also presented a key solution to the Nuggets' other bread-and-butter action, Murray-Jokic pick and roll. With Gobert parked at the rim as a full-time deterrent, Jokic's defender was able to stick with him on the roll and effectively ignore Murray because Minnesota trusted their elite perimeter defenders to expertly navigate screens, apply back pressure with their length, and funnel Murray into Gobert and help, knowing he probably won't challenge him at the rim. So they forced him into these mid-range looks and floaters where he's been awful all postseason. And by keeping Jokic's defender attached to him on the roll, they prevented those pocket passes to Jokic where he can shoot 65 to 70% on floaters or throw the lob to Aaron Gordon. So especially when Jamal is off like he's been, that's the best answer anybody's cooked up to the Murray-Jokic pick and roll as well. And even when Naz Reid showed here and conceded this pass to Jokic, Gobert read this lob to Gordon, which is usually unstoppable, and erased it with his ridiculous length at a crucial moment. All this is to say that Gobert was simply destructive as a backline defender in Game 1, crucial to Minnesota's core defensive strategy that was so effective. And I couldn't have imagined that they'd match, much less improve, their defensive performance in Game 2 without him. But remarkably, they did. With Gobert out, Minnesota doubled the shit out of Jokic, which has proven to be a better strategy than letting him cook defenders in single coverage, but allows him to dissect you as a brilliant passer and find Denver strong shooters. But Minnesota's personnel is just different, and they trusted their elite athletes to rotate quickly and still bother shooters, help aggressively on cuts and drives if they ran shooters off the line, and disrupt the other Nuggets with their speed, activity, and length. Early in the first quarter, Ant doubles Jokic, who finds Jamal on this cut, but Cat is willing to help off of Gordon, and that's too much size and length for Jamal to finish against. Cat doubles here, meaning Jokic has to see over 2 huge defenders to skip the pass to the weak side corner, so it comes out a bit high. KCP swings to MPJ, but Ant rotates quickly and challenges another step back. This time, Ant rotates quickly enough that MPJ pump fakes and passes out of this. Reggie Jackson attacks the closeout, but Kyle Anderson swats this in help with his 7'3" wingspan. Even without Gobert, Minnesota's aggregate length is so overwhelming that they blocked 12 shots and held Denver to 38% shooting in the paint in Game 2. There's an obvious lane for Brown to cut here, but he's a second late. Still, he and Holiday both look like they could have a clean cut off yet another Jokic double. He gets this ball to Holiday, and Nickeil-Alexander Walker rotates over to snatch it from him. All of those plays are just from the first quarter. In each one, they force the ball out of Jokic's hands instead of letting him play bully ball out of the post and trust their superior athletes in absurd length to overwhelm the Nuggets supporting cast. And they did. But Minnesota's post defenders had some really impressive moments versus Jokic straight up, too. Here, Anderson catches him off guard with a back tap. Jokic has deep post position here, but Naz Reid uses that 7'3" wingspan to stuff him. Then Conley uses his great instincts to get a hand on this ball, and Jokic has to go back left for a tougher shot that he misses. Cat is so strong and physical that he stands Jokic up here, who then kicks out to MPJ, but Ant runs him off the line, and the help forces him to try a lefty floater, which the defense loves. MPJ is immediately much less effective once he puts the ball on the floor and steps inside the arc, and Minnesota exposed that with aggressive defense. MPJ tries to force a physical drive on Naz here, which is not his game, and with MPJ's head down, Conley knows he can double, and he strips MPJ as he's extending that forearm so the ball is exposed. And the hands of so many Minnesota defenders in this game were outstanding. Minnesota's aggressive doubling on Jokic and incredible team defense when he passed also forced Denver away from his post-ups. Jokic only posted up 5 times after the first quarter, meaning the Nuggets turned to more disjointed possessions without Jokic paint touches. So Minnesota did an incredible job on Jokic, forcing his limited supporting cast members to try to beat them. MPJ is an awesome spot-up shooter, Aaron Gordon is great in the dunker spot, but when you make MPJ try to beat you off the bounce, or Gordon beat you as a creator or jump shooter against a swarming defense like this, they struggle. But the man who Minnesota has eaten alive the most has been Jamal Murray. Murray went just 3 of 18 in Game 2 and was in hell all night. Alexander Walker is applying intense ball pressure all the way down the floor, as he has throughout these playoffs, and Reggie Jackson trailing the play allows McDaniels to double here, and this is just hellacious pressure from these two, both of whom boast outstanding length. Jamal manages to get the ball out, but now Denver only has about 8 seconds to work with. Minnesota initially doubles before switching late, which eats up more clock, and then Jamal won't shoot this over McDaniels' length, so he kicks it to the corner. Conley flies out there and is right up in Watson's airspace to force a bricked 3. That is a masterpiece in team defense. Minnesota's perimeter defenders are able to apply this physicality and pressure on Jamal because he lacks the explosiveness to beat them off the bounce, the same reason it was so devastating against Phoenix. If you can't get by these defenders playing you so tightly because they're superior athletes, then that ball pressure will lead to turnovers, stagnate your offense by making it difficult to get into any actions, and simply wear you down. Alexander Walker and McDaniels are also incredible at navigating screens, which means Jamal isn't springing free for clean threes or getting a real head start going downhill. McDaniels isn't even affected by these first 2 screens, and when Jamal can finally get downhill, there's almost no time on the shot clock, and there's a bunch of long help defenders there to affect him. And even when Jamal got away from Alexander Walker and McDaniels, he was still in hell, particularly at the hands of Naz Reid. The ball pressure forces Jackson to pick up his dribble here, and Murray rejects the screen to force a late switch, but Naz sticks with him on the drive and swats this. Naz fights over this screen and swats this shot, before of course Jamal can find Christian Braun off a cut, and he is stripped by McDaniels. Murray thinks he has the pocket pass to Jokic here, but Naz again uses that 7'3" wingspan to get a hand on it. Jamal has not had an easy shot or read all series long, and when you combine that with the brutal shooting slump he's on, the man is playing the worst basketball of his life. That's what Minnesota does. They are so long, so active, and so physical that everything was made challenging for the Nuggets in Game 2. Jokic couldn't finish putbacks. Denver could hardly hold on to a ball in the paint. Players had to pick up their dribble early because the swarm is constant and can come from anywhere. Even basic inbounds start to feel terrifying. Minnesota is built perfectly to stop a Denver offense that decimated the field last postseason, posting the second highest playoff offensive rating we've ever seen from a champ. The Timberwolves have multiple post defenders who can physically challenge Jokic and an elite rim protector. They're the rare team that is big and strong enough to challenge that huge front court, and the rare team with such hellacious perimeter defenders that they can expose Denver's lack of ball handling outside Murray, who himself is outmatched athletically, and the fact that Denver lacks the sort of great athletes who can finish around the rim against this overwhelming length. But Minnesota is built to stop anybody. The Phoenix Suns were a very different team than Denver, smaller, with more off-the-dribble creators, rich with skilled shot makers, and Minnesota ate them alive. They play with extreme physicality, have 3 elite perimeter defenders, one of the best interior defenders ever, an incomprehensible amount of length, and crucially, every single player is extremely engaged. There is no weak link. This isn't just the best defense in the league. This might be the best defense since the 04 Pistons. The gap in defensive rating between Minnesota and the number 2 defense this regular season was the second biggest we've seen in the last 15 years. But what we've seen in the playoffs has been even more impressive. The Nuggets' offensive rating through 2 games of this series is 20 points lower than what it was last postseason and this regular season. Even when Denver was without Murray and MPJ and facing the best defense in the league in 2022, they still produced a top 5 playoff offense. They've done so every time they've been to the playoffs with Jokic. Until right now. Minnesota has completely thrown them off in a way I didn't think was possible. And if you can do this to Denver, then you can do this to anybody.